Good to see you, Helen. Glad you're here.
Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, you guys, we're live. Hello. And we're early, so we can just keep talking. No, I'm just kidding. So, I'm kidding, not kidding. It's Friday, everybody. So I'm gonna start this like I always do, which is I really appreciate all of you guys being here. I know it's a Friday. I know you have packed schedules, but I think this is such an important topic, and this is going to be one where I'm going to step aside to a little bit and really sort of be the moderator and be like, okay, we've got time. We're going to have to move to the next topic because you guys really are all of the experts, and I'll jump in where I have maybe something valuable to contribute. But so for everyone who's joining us, we really appreciate you all being here. I'm going to give you just kind of a quick outline about what it is that we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna start with identifying and managing your job search stress because it's a real thing, the anxiety and the burnout. We're going to talk about building resilience and maintaining a positive mindset, which frankly last night I could have used a little bit of that. Developing some healthy coping mechanisms and self-care routines, accessing mental health resources, and then we're really going to leave it open to Q&A, and we'll try to answer questions during it. And then we also will post a document toward the end of the chat where we've curated a bunch of different resources that we think would be really helpful to everybody. So y'all can share that as we go through this. So if you guys don't mind, Dan, why don't we start with you? And I know you always say ladies first, but we're starting with you today.
I'm actually posting links in the chat, so if you could skip me first.
Sir. All right. We're coming back to you then. So Lisa, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Hammett. I am a certified positive intelligence PQ coach. Just say I'm a mental fitness expert. I'm also a transformational speaker and an author. And I have been through burnout and survived and thrived, but it's a bad place to be. So I understand if you're stressed out about your job search, hey, you come to the right place.
Okay, Helen.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name's Helen Godfrey. I'm a national certified counselor, board certified coach, a licensed therapist in Texas. And I've been a career coach for, well, if you count my internship, since 1999. And I always tell people if anyone should like looking for a job, it should be me. I don't. So we definitely understand how you feel and welcome. We hope to add a lot of value to your day.
All right, Anna.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anna Lang, and I am a personal development life coach, speaker, and trainer. My history is I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. I've had 8 businesses, including the world's largest online plant search tool of its kind. And what I do now, in a nutshell, is I support people to get unstuck. You would call me the relationship coach that you call when the relationship you're struggling with is the one you have with yourself. A lot of my work is supporting people to get out of extreme stress states and back into balance by supporting them to understand the physiology behind what they're experiencing and why it's not their fault, they're not broken, and then also teaching them actionable steps that they can take to create meaningful and lasting change.
So, and then Dan, you're right after me. So I'm Jennifer Sethry. I'm the founder and CEO of Intry Careers, and Intry is a software that helps resumes get through applicant tracking system software. Why we are hosting this platform and doing bootcamp events is because we've had so many people that have reached out to us that really need help and they need a 360 solution. And I've met so many incredible people that are articulate and smart and experts in the content that they put out is meaningful and it's accurate. And that is who I want to surround myself with. It's who I want to highlight. It's who I want to lift up and showcase. So that is my my objective in having these lives. All right, Dan, we were going to lead with you, and you first. We're going to talk about this later, but go ahead.
In fairness, I was just helping you out and getting ahead of questions you were going to ask
Oh,
me to do later.
I know.
First of all, hi everyone. I see some people that have followed me into here in the chat already, so thank you for joining. My name is Dan Roth. I am a neurodiverse individual as well as parent to an autistic child. I create safe mental health spaces and speak out on normalizing mental health conversations as a domestic violence and sexual assault survivor, as somebody that has an eating disorder and body dysmorphia, and normalizing those conversations so that we could all feel like we don't have to be alone all the time. And once again, when I talk about psychological safety, this episode is a psychologically safe space. So if you are in a sensitive position, please know that you can be exactly who you are here. We are here to support. Feel free to ask questions. If you were ever going to, this is the one that you have a set of experts that is second to none.
That is very kind. So with that said, y'all, we're going to jump right into it. So Helen, we're going to start with you, and we're going to talk about, the identifying and managing job search related stress, anxiety, and burnout. And I don't know anybody who hasn't gone through it. Like Lisa, you talk about burnout. I wanted to raise both hands and be like, me too. And I think, now it's okay to talk about it. I think historically, it's not really been okay to talk about it, and normalizing it's really important. So, Helen, you first. What are the signs, of stress and burnout? Because I think sometimes we've been raised to just be like, suck it up, push through it, just.
Right. So you might find yourself losing interest in the work that you're doing. That can be a sign. Maybe you can't sleep, you can't eat, maybe you can't stop sleeping or you can't stop eating. Those are certainly signs of burnout. And we all have our own particular signs of stress and burnout. And you might add on some new ones if it's chronic. I know when I moved to a new city, I was looking for a job, suffering from a broken heart. I added a new sign, which was I couldn't remember anything. I was at Costco and I was buying groceries. And I realized, oh, I don't have my credit card. And I retraced my steps, and it was in the pile of books. I had a book addiction. I still do. That wasn't the problem I was worried about. It was not remembering I had left my credit card just sitting there on that pile of books. So, be mindful of your stress reactions. And we can have physical, emotional, cognitive, behavioral, and ongoing stress related symptoms, especially when this stress keeps coming at us. So, headaches, fatigue, sleep, changes in appetite, mood swings, like I said, memory issues, noticing that you're withdrawing from people, that can be a big problem. Changes in productivity, you just don't want to do anything, you don't feel motivated. Maybe you notice, again, I mentioned overeating, undereating, maybe you're over drinking and that's not really your style. For most cases, you're numbing, watching too much TV, over shopping, those can all be things. And, I'd love to talk about some solutions while you're looking for a job to kind of help combat some of this stress.
And I'm just going to jump in there quick before, Lisa, we pivot to you and say that, I would say that's like one of the things that I didn't identify in myself was the withdrawing, right? Because you have so many things going on, and sometimes outside stimulus, it's like you get tired of talking about it. It's like, is the person asking how you are really interested in how you are? Or are they just asking it because it's a societal norm and expectation, right? So anyway, just my experience. So Lisa, you're going to talk about some techniques for managing job-related search anxiety. So I really want to learn about that and do a deep dive.
Yes. So, as a mental fitness expert, I share techniques on engaging your senses. Anybody can do this anytime, anywhere. And I personally have had tremendous success as well as clients on reducing stress, gaining clarity so you're more productive and you're peaceful and you're calm. So, if you would do this with me, I'm going to give you some examples. So, wherever you are in your environment, I want you to focus on something that you can see. And I want you to just stare at it intently as if you've never seen it before. And notice colors, shapes, textures. Maybe there's a reflection in the surface. But look at it truly as if you have never seen that object before and just stare at it. Another thing that you can do is focus on something that you can hear. Now, clearly I'm talking, so it could be the tone or inflection of my voice. You might be in a surrounding where you can hear a telephone, or you could hear somebody talking in another room, or maybe a car's driving by, or there's office chatter, whatever it is. But really listen to it. And then one of my favorites is rubbing two fingertips together. And I know this seems really weird, but what it does is it quiets all those negative emotions that you had, like stress, anxiety, overwhelm. And it helps you to focus by taking really the focus off of what you're ruminating about. And what I love about this is you can do this any place, anytime, anywhere. It's not like you go around like this, to people, but you can subtly do it in your pocket. If you're seated, you could do it in your lap. I did this actually in a TEDx situation where my microphone wasn't working and they had to stop me mid-sentence during my presentation. It's like, who does that in a TED Talk? And they had to get my microphone working. And because I was in a good headspace and had been doing these mental fitness exercises and continue to rub two fingertips together in my pocket, when they told me to start over, I did and delivered a great presentation. So the point is they do work and they're super simple to use. Now, these are great resources that you could do to mentally prepare for an interview, for example. If you're knowing that you're going into a really important interview and you're nervous and you're like, oh my gosh, I could forget something. These are great ways to just calm yourself down. And, breath work kind of ties into this too. You can focus on the breathing. And as you inhale slowly, think of the word so, S-O. And as you exhale slowly, think of the word hum. And this is the sound that your lungs make actually when you're in your deepest restorative sleep. And it's been shown that it can really help regulate your nervous system and lower your heart rate. It's also a great way to go back to sleep. Anybody wake up in the middle of the night, your brain's going 90 to nothing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am never, ever going to go back to sleep. This is a great thing to focus on. And I'll tell you, you might have to stop and then picture a big red stop sign and tell yourself firmly, stop to self-command your brain. But once you do that, then you can start with the so hum, and it will lull you to sleep. And when you get good at it, you can do it in a couple seconds. So those are just some tips.
That's a great one. And you've mentioned that when we've talked before, when that happens to me, because, my brain seems like it never wants to turn itself off. And, doing the breathing exercises, right, where you're in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds and exhale and do that, 5 or 6 times in a row is something that really works for me. And I have done that technique you just talked about, and it does work. The stop sign in my head was really abrupt for a while, but then I was like, oh, okay. Like if this is okay. So I know we've got more stuff to talk about, but if we want to move on to the next topic, we had talked about building resilience and maintaining a positive mindset. So, Anna, do you want to talk about strategies for building resilience?
Yeah. Excuse me. Absolutely. And I think it would be important to start first with let's just talk about what resilience is, because I think there's a bit of confusion in the world about resilience being this magical thing that allows you to bounce back and jump right back into something. And really, resilience is a lot more like surfing. It's your ability to surf the waves of your own life so that you can get through those circumstances. It's not about I'm resilient and therefore I won't be stressed out and therefore I won't experience this level of upset. It's simply I have a toolkit and an amount of confidence and the right setup inside me mentally that I can navigate it even when it's really, really uncomfortable. So I want to get that out of the way. It is much like building a muscle. And there's some things that really play into our resilience that can it's a resilience red light. And one of those factors, obviously, because there's different types of resilience, and we're talking specifically about mental resilience right now, and perspective. And I don't want to say perspective is a trope. I'm literally talking about our cognition will, in many cases, determine whether we surf or sink. And some of the things that play in, and especially when you're going through transition, and that's my specialty, or areas when we're going through transformation, we're going through transition. So things like catastrophizing, when you assume that the world is out to get you, or you're looking for the worst case scenario, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to end up homeless, this employer is going to hate me. Like you're always going down to sort of an extreme circumstance. That's one thing that can really impact your resilience. Another perspective that can really hamstring your resilience is comparison. So it's the feeling that you should or you have to be in a certain place because of what the people around you are doing, or that you are falling behind, or this race that you have with yourself, but it's all outside directed. Another issue that I find, and this is a huge one I find in my groups, is I call it future casting. It's when people take their past and they toss it onto their future. So we look at what happened in the past. I messed up a job interview, and I'm throwing that onto my next job interview. Like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't screw up. I might do this, and you start spinning out in your own head, or you assume that the same thing is going to happen because it happened before. This person isn't going to like me. I'm going to be rejected, whatever it is. And I call that future casting, because what happened in your past is absolutely not an indicator of how your future is going to go. It's just a reflection of the choices you made at a specific point in time with a specific amount of resources, information, whatever available to you, right? Now you're at a different point and you can make a new choice based on the new position that you're currently in and all of the stuff that you've learned, right? And then the last thing I want to talk about before I talk about building blocks is personalization, because it's such a big one that kills resilience. And that's when you start to feel like you're responsible for all kinds of things that in reality, they have absolutely nothing to do with you. They're either completely or partially out of your control. So thinking that it's something that you should or can be responsible for is actually a misnomer. Now, the next logical question is, what do we do to build resilience? And I don't know if we'll get to all four of them. You cut me off, Jennifer, when my time is up, but I have four big things that I like to do with people to build and strengthen their resilience. And one of the big ones is scope of control. And I want to talk about this one first. I know generally I'll talk about self-compassion first, but I want to talk about scope of control, because when we're in a big transition, when we're going through a job hunt, when we're going through a divorce, whatever it happens to be, when you're looking out, you see all of the stuff coming at you, and your brain has a limited amount of resources to deal with all the stuff coming at you. And what
Right.
can happen is we start to focus on sort of these really big things that are way outside of our control, and it causes us to sort of spin out. And what scope of control is it's a really effective way to hone in and focus on the things you have the most total control over first, and to show you the things that you have influence over And then finally, the things that are concerns, but you don't have influence over. So it helps to focus your brain in a meaningful way at the things that you can impact. And what it does is it reduces overwhelm. It narrows your scope. It makes your life manageable. And it is such a beautiful tool in your resilience toolbox. You can use it when you're spinning out. And I don't know how much in depth we want to go here, but
I could listen for a lot longer, but we do no. So I'm just saying, like, we have an hour, which seems like a lot of time. One of the things I just wanted to interject for a quick second was that, you know, I think, like, when you're looking for a job, one of the things, you don't have control over who's going to respond to you. You have control over how you're going to respond to that, whether you've been ghosted or, you know, you got to know, or you got to know, thank you. Like, you get to decide how you want to respond to that. And in the scope of job searching, this is one of the hardest job markets I've ever seen. Right. And I've hired, you know, thousands of people and run a bunch of different companies, but it's really hard. You have multiple people applying for it. So in this case, a lot of times, if you are being ghosted, it's not you, it's them. That is absolutely a thing. And I think that ties into, you know, Anna, what you're saying is that you can't control that. You can't force them to respond to you. You can control how you're going to apply, how organized you're going to be about your search. But I want you to just, without going into too much detail, the two other points, and then I want to transition to Dan about, you know, tips for maintaining a positive outlook during the job search. And we can circle back to things, you know, that we think we skipped.
Okay, for sure. There's 3 other points. And the next one is the difference between self-compassion and patience. You got to focus on self-compassion over patience. Patience, in a nutshell, is there's an expectation of where you're supposed to be, and you are waiting to arrive. Self-compassion is walking alongside yourself on the journey you're on, not with an expectation of how it has to look, should look, ought to, got to, or need to. It relieves I was going to swear there. It relieves an absolute ton of pressure on you mentally. It is a keystone skill you can learn to take pressure off yourself. Next, you have Kaizen. Once you hone in on your scope of control and you're operating from self-compassion, it is your next smallest step. Too often we focus on everything that has to be done and the biggest thing, because the big thing is what we think matters. No. Your next smallest step. When you're in overwhelm, you are going to spin out. If you are focusing on things that are too big, it'll spin your brain out. Next smallest step, it gives you focus, it gives you control, and control will calm your nervous system. And the last thing is to whip your perspective, which is what is possible. Very often people are in I can't, and that's a nervous system response, because we are programmed to be safe, to survive, right? And we survive by staying safe, and we stay safe by seeing what is dangerous. So we are programmed to see all the negative things and all the danger, and that's not bad, but it doesn't help you when you're searching for a job. It doesn't help you when you are attempting to move into the unknown or do something you've never done before, or when you're in discomfort. So what is possible? Ask that question. Instead of saying, I can't get my resume printed, what's possible? Oh, I can take it down the street and have someone else do it for me. I can call my friend. What is possible? There. Was that succinct enough?
It was great. I mean, that's a lot of information, and there's so much more between all of you that we need to unpack. But so Dan, like you know, have gone, you know, through high highs and low lows, just, you know, like everybody, and you're really honest and raw about, you know, where you are at with things and how you process information. And I just want to take a quick moment, is that, you know, Dan is so competent in so many different areas. And I think for someone like you, that has to be a challenge, right? Because you do so many different things and you do them well, and narrowing that scope down. But you know, you have shared with me various tips for maintaining positive outlook. And I think it'd be really helpful for you to share that with everybody here.
You know, first of all, thank you. I'm still sort of catching my breath from watching Anna get so much out in such a short amount of time. You know, as somebody that's from Jersey, I can't talk that fast. So I appreciate.
It's a gift, man. It is a gift.
Oh, Honestly, the only other person I've seen do that is my mother, and Anna's the first one I haven't actively tried to tune out. Um, um, so
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It's weird for me to say, and you know this, it's hard for me to acknowledge I have competency in a lot of areas and strengths in a lot of areas. Uh, None of that occurred before I stepped into my own and found my UVP. There's something to be said for self acceptance and having that be the precipice of going on a positive journey. Now, positive journeys don't always mean that you're going to see the results that you want right away. As Anna so eloquently stated, it really is like riding a wave. But what it does allow you to do is be more free and not have as many regrets within within the formation of that process, because you know that what you're doing is based critically on what you do best. And even something as simple as learning new skills is a lot easier when you drive into that self-acceptance phase. For me, when it comes to maintaining a positive mindset, which is not something I'm terribly good at, but I'm honest about it, a big part of that is accepting the fact I'm not going to always be in a positive mindset. It's going to be it's accepting the fact that it's normal for me to feel, and it's normal for those spells of depression and anxiety and the highs and the lows, and realizing that it's not strange, it's not weird, it's not something that I am alone going through. Now, please don't get me wrong. When I say that something that I am not alone going through, that isn't taking away the emphasis on or the importance of exactly what I'm going through. Because a lot of people do that. They'll push it off and say, oh, somebody else is going through it worse than I am. That's not the case. It's acknowledging that we are, there's extreme importance in our thoughts and our feelings, while also acknowledging that it's, I'm going to use the word, I hate being repetitive, but it's not abnormal. And when you're able to fuse those two together, it creates a lot stronger pathway for, for some semblance of normality. And I know that I know the other ladies are probably going to get into this, but support systems are, wait, actually looking at this, I'm supposed to be doing it in a couple minutes. But resources and having those support systems are so critically important. And, I'm not going to tell people not to take things personally, even though by all means we shouldn't, but don't take things personally. A little bit all over the place for an answer today, but there you go.
I mean, I think part of it is acknowledging that it's really stressful, giving you space to, like being positive is, sometimes just a positive affirmation. But so now we're going to transition to developing healthy coping mechanisms and self-care routines. So I think, Lisa, we're gonna start with you, and then Helen, you are going to talk about, other healthy coping mechanisms for daily stress. And honestly, like, this is just our outline, but I don't want anyone to feel confined by that. And if you think there's more that you need to say or share that's, slightly off topic, I really want to welcome you to do that.
All right. So what I'm going to share, it's not rocket science. It's things you probably heard before, but oftentimes when we allow ourselves to get very stressed and nearing burnout, we put this to the back burner, meaning self-care practices. And there's this misconception, even though we might hear otherwise, that I don't have time for that. I can't do this. It's more important that I focus on getting this job because my family or myself, I need it. We need the income. I can't take time off for myself. That'll come after I get a job. Here's the thing. If you don't take care of yourself now, you may not make it to your job. I hate to say that, and that sounds super harsh, but I had ugly burnout situation that severely compromised my health. And my emotional and physical health. And that is what will happen if you don't take care of yourself. So I'll get off my soapbox on that. But here are some practical tips. So setting specific times for job search, for exercise. And exercise, if you don't like to go to the gym, who cares? Go for a walk, do something that you enjoy, go swimming, go whatever. Schedule time for breaks and for other things that are important to you, and time block it and be super intentional. I have found in my experience, and also in people that I have helped, that if you set aside an hour and you do a power hour that is completely distraction free, and you have to communicate that with other people in your household sometimes, is you need to set aside that time, no distractions, so that you can focus. And it is amazing what you can accomplish in an hour if you don't have distractions. So that goes for your job search, that goes for breaks for yourself, but time block them into times that make sense and set healthy boundaries. Saying no is hard. Let's face it. It's super hard. I get it. And I used to be terrible at this, but it does get easier the more that you do it. And if you are saying yes to things that are preventing you from doing things that are more important, you have got to say no. You have got to say no. And you don't have to provide a dissertation. You don't have to apologize. Just say, I have a really full plate right now, or whatever is comfortable for you. But again, don't say, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't. I just can't do that. No, stop. You're putting yourself first. You should never apologize, ever, ever. And then I like the smarter goal philosophy, like when you're setting specific goals, especially in the job search process. So smarter, specific, measurable, active, what you're going to do versus what you're going to stop doing, relevant, what you want to do versus what you should do. I'll just use an example of going to the gym. I know that's not necessarily job search related, but oftentimes we buy into a gym membership because it's inexpensive. And we have this belief system that, wow, if I go to the gym, I'm going to get healthy and it's going to help me with stress, but we hate going to the gym. So why would we try to talk ourselves saying we should do something? Stop shitting on yourself. Stop shitting on yourself. Stop it. Okay. That's relevant. Time bound. You got to set a time frame to it. Yes, it is, Dan. It has to be energizing. If you're not energized by it, you're not going to do it. And it has to be realistic. And then, again, breaking down your job search into manageable tasks that are easy to do. Make them stupid simple. In that power hour, make it that you're going to achieve it, because you need to build that self-efficacy. And once you do that, then you are going to be more inclined to be more productive and do other things. And celebrate small victories. I don't care how small it is. You updated your resume. You updated your profile on your LinkedIn account.
Take the win.
Take the win. Yes, Jennifer, absolutely. And celebrate it and embrace it, because that's amazing. And in the process, do something daily that brings you joy, whether it's savoring a cup of coffee, whether it's going for a walk, something. Doesn't mean you have to go on a high paid vacation. That's great if you can afford it. But, it's something small. And then lastly, and I know this is common sense, watch what you put in your body, what you eat, what you drink. I'm not a proponent of eliminating things because that's not sustainable. But if you're drinking too much alcohol or caffeine, it's going to impact your cognitive abilities and your sleep. And that will be a big problem. And you want to be optimally at your best. Get active, move more, do something, get good sleep, and stay hydrated. And that's it.
Okay. I mean, there's so many things to say about that, but I just want to be mindful of the time. We're going to circle back to some of this stuff. Okay. So Helen, what are some of the coping mechanisms, that you suggest? And I mean, you're a licensed therapist, so, what do you want to add on to, what Lisa shared, because there isn't necessarily a one size fits all, right? I do personally celebrate the joy thing because I think it's hard.
Well, I love what Lisa said. So thank you for sharing all that, Lisa. Great ideas and techniques. What a lot of people can find helpful is saying, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to apply for jobs. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to do coffee chats, because something so hard about looking for a job is the isolation. And if you're doing coffee chats, it reminds you that you're not alone. You're just asking for advice. You're not asking a stranger for a job. That really helps you get the inside scoop. It helps you access the hidden job market, and really be even more prepared for jobs. As we mentioned earlier, you can only pick what you do. You can't pick if you get a call back. So creating an Excel spreadsheet, keeping track of where you've applied, creating folders, capturing that job, cutting and pasting that job. When you have a customized resume for each job and your cover letter, making a folder again so you can keep track of that. And that way it can be validating, because time flies and you think, what did I even do with my day? And you can say, okay, I've been trying. In sales, they say every no is closer to a yes. And you can feel that way with your job search as well. And just remember, I mean, not every networking event has to be job related. You can actually go and have fun anytime there are people. That is called networking. So if you like walking, if you like hiking, if you like cooking, any opportunity that will give you a chance to talk to people and relieve stress, that is amazing. And, of course, people are going to say, so what do you do? And that's really awkward. And you can say, well, right now I'm between jobs, but for the past 30 years, I've been a project manager. And you know what I love the most about that job? And help them understand, regardless of their background, who you are, what you did, what you love the most, because most people want to help you. And then you say, and how about you? So I think that can be helpful. Also, journaling can be a really great way to relieve stress. And if you haven't tried it, by the way, it isn't for everyone, but my clients really enjoy it. Start by writing simple things: the date, the time, what you had for breakfast, the weather. And you'd be surprised at how much you have to say to yourself. Now, to take it a step further with the job, why not write about your ideal job? My office would look like this. My colleagues are like this. We go to happy hours. You know what? I get to go to these conferences. It's called future planning. What are my clients like? What's a typical day? Am I in meetings? Just imagine as you're journaling. And by the way, who says you have to keep your journal? You can shred it. You don't have to keep it. So that can be helpful too. And like Lisa was talking about, having a reward system. So maybe there's something that's really hard to do. So you can say, if I apply for X number of jobs, I'm going to go to a movie. Or maybe you can say, if I finish this by 2 o'clock, I'm taking myself to lunch. So there are some things that are really hard to get going on. Our energy can ebb and flow. So figure out what kind of oomph you need. Some days you're going to find it easier to get things done, and some days it's going to be really hard. So just find ways to keep yourself encouraged.
I want to just add on to that a little bit. Just, listening to all of you guys, I feel like I can want to put my hand on, and be like, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ditto. And one of the things that, I think everyone right now has so many things going on. It's not just a job search, right? You might be searching for a job. You might have little kids. You might have kids going to college. You might have sick animals. You might have health issues. You might have, family members that are struggling with things like, society right now is intense and it's a lot. Lisa, you and I were talking about that the other day, that sometimes things just feel heavy, and then you compound that, and it's like, you feel like you have this little thing left of who you are and your person, and you can't breathe, and everything feels so heavy. And I think showing yourself grace and acknowledging those things, and doing little things that they don't seem like they make a big impact, but like one of the things I shared with Lisa was like, I stopped watching the news for a while, because it was too much. There was so much negativity, and I was like, where's the joy in all of this? And like, where are the good stories? Because they're out there, right? But they're kind of hard to find sometimes with the noise. So I think making sure that you surround yourself with positivity and letting things go. And like, for me, finding an hour to exercise would be really hard, but I always find time to do at least 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes can change my mindset. It can change me from I'm pivoting until the glass is half empty, and it can change me to a glass is half full. And what you said, you're talking about celebration, and Anna, and you all said something that was similar about that. And so did you, Dan, finding that common thread. And in my head, I call it finding my joy. So when I'm in that negative self-talk, or I'm not showing myself grace, or I'm mad at everybody and everybody is dumb, I'm like, I am the common denominator. So I gotta own that part. But also, like, those things, like my chickens bring me joy. I'm sure they see me coming and they're like, oh my God, here she is again. Pick a different animal, like, you got a myriad to choose from. Does it always have to be us? I'm like, yes, it always has to be you guys. And like, whatever it is, or listen to your favorite song, or, like, those are things I just, like, I'm not an expert, but I've listened to all of you who are experts. And those are things that really help pull me through those spots when life is just like, okay, can I say uncle now? And you're like, oh, I can't say uncle, but you can for 10 minutes. To me, I'm not sure you guys are so silent. I'm not sure if I'm, doing an OMA or not. I'm not going to explain the OMA acronym, by the way.
If I start talking, Jennifer, you may never shut me up. So, I mean,
I am totally okay with that. So what our next thing we're going to talk about is advocating your needs for the hiring process. And I'm not on this, but I'm just going to say, as a person who has hired a lot of people, I do like people who advocate for themselves, not in the first interview, right? Because I got to get to know you a little bit. And I know that's going to be controversial, but you have to advocate for yourself in a way that is constructive, and understanding the companies that you're going for. And once you're hired, and I was just going to give an example, and then I realized I don't have permission, so I cannot. I'm going to come up with another one. But, advocating for yourself in every part of your employment and your life is going to become, it's critical, and it becomes muscle memory. The more you do it, the more effortless it becomes. You're not always whiny, right? It's advocating for yourself doesn't mean that you're being aggressive. It means that you're being assertive. And I think we need to really understand that in today's age. So right now it's up to Anna. Anna is going to talk about communicating your needs to your employers, because she communicates those things really well. And not like, I know Anna isn't like, to all of y'all, she's not like, a traditional job person, but she has a way of distilling things down. Like, we were all on a call the other day, and okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but you will come in because I know you're going to know what to say, of distilling things down in a way that are bite-sized nuggets. But I guess, Dan, why don't we just quick skip to if you want to share your screen, if you're ready to do that now, or you want to do that later, about all the different things that we have curated for people to take a look at. I didn't know we couldn't put attachments in here, so shame on me, but you can reach out to me or Dan, or any of us have it, and we can get it to y'all. And it's quite robust. So Dan, you let me know if you want to do that now, if you want to do it later. And I love QR code on your screen. I just saw that.
Yeah,
That
I'm
is
at,
awesome.
and if you scan that, that will go directly to the events.intrycareers.com website for the boot camp. My computer is not acting the way that it's supposed to, probably because I'm running
That's
3
okay.
screens.
We're not. This is a stress-free zone, so we're not gonna worry about that. But what do you guys want to go back and circle? And are there any questions that you guys have? Oh my God, Mary Kay, chipmunks too. We don't have them in Texas. What is wrong? I don't. I miss my chipmunks. If you guys aren't where chipmunks are native to where you live, they're the cutest little creatures you have ever seen. I'm just saying, I'm partial to them.
So,
Oh,
oh,
I was
I'll defer to you.
Well, I was going to say, Dan, absolutely go say whatever it is you wanted to say, because when you're done, I would love to circle back to this whole concept of celebration and communication, because I think the way we communicate ourselves and the messages we send to ourselves through the actions we take, we're not always super conscious of. And we've heard a couple of people touch on celebration. I think it's such an important and underlooked at, or overlooked. It's almost like we passed right over it. And it's a really powerful resource that we have. So I'll wait for Dan. And then if we have time to circle back to it, I would love to.
We have 15 minutes. We've got time.
Sweet.
So normally I would say, no, you go. But in order to keep this congruent, I'm going to say thank you. So Jen, I'm going to give a couple of examples for why it's so important to advocate for yourself in the beginning, because I do understand your point, and there's a lot of bias that is associated anytime you start. And I'm going to use 2 different examples in 2 different classifications of individuals. So first is those in marginalized communities. There is such a drastic, there's not enough diversity within large corporations. Most people that are coming from black or Hispanic backgrounds or indigenous often find themselves to be the only person on their teams that look like themselves, and thus they have no community. The same thing occurs during the interview process. Very rarely do you see representation during interviews. So people will go in to these interviews feeling like, well, I have nobody that's going to understand where I'm coming from or is going to be willing to advocate for me. The reason I bring this up is because I had a colleague who I hold in very, very large esteem that's told me a story about how when she went through the interview process with Amazon, she specifically requested that there be a Black interviewer on the panel when she went for it, so that she knew that she had somebody that had, I don't want to say a similar background, but that could advocate for her stint. And that was critically important in the grand scheme of things to making her feel like she could show up as herself and be able to get the job with the removal of some form of bias. So whenever you get into that situation, a lot of people I had never heard that you could even do that. So that is something for consideration. The other component that I'll speak to specifically is neurodiversity. One of the great stressors that we have is when we go into situations where we feel the need to code switch, where we don't feel like we could be ourselves. And then what happens is that creates internal stressors that can result in us not being able to be our best selves because we're so focused on showcasing what normal looks like that it completely shifts our behaviors, and a lot of times will remove our ability to showcase our greatest strengths. So the reason that it's really important to me to advocate for people to be open right from the beginning is twofold. One is because if you need accommodations, most companies will require you to ask from the get-go to make sure that you're in a better position. But the second is so that whether you want to die on that hill or not, you can go into the situation being able to feel like, you know what, if I didn't get this job, it's because it's not because I wasn't able to show up as me. It's not because I was limited on my ability to be my best self. It's because at the end of the day, either I made a mistake or I wasn't right for the role. And that just opens the door for me to find that place that I am the right fit for, that is the right role for me, is the company that's going to feed me correctly. And I'll give one last anecdote as an example. We've talked about my job search at length. 18 months this is going on. I thought I had to code switch for the gross majority. Two companies have wanted to hire me and just didn't have the budget for it. And in both cases, I was shocked because the interviewer actually set the tone and said, "This is Dan. He works in diversity, equity, inclusion. He's for equity." And they put me in a position where I had to be myself because it was already set up for me. And those were the two companies that, when I was exactly who I am and what I'm passionate about, both said, "Holy cow, this is inspirational. Let's see how we can make this work." So putting that out there, and I'm going to stop there.
I know. I mean, so first of all, I love that. But I think it also depends on the size of the company, because, we're seeing in a lot of companies that I interact with, across the country, is a lot of things are being outsourced, right? Like HR is being outsourced. It's not necessarily the person that is doing the screening isn't necessarily an internal part of that organization. And so to me, I feel like it's always important to be authentic. But when you're in that very beginning, and if that company, if that group is not part of the company, it's a different culture fit. Do you know what I mean? And I've had people that have reached out to us, and they've just gotten so burned because it's been outsourced and their instructions were so narrow and so rigid, and that's my concern, right? It's not because I don't think it's smart. It's my concern of the company size and where it is and how their HR is being run.
It's a valid concern, but this is where you could do the research ahead of time. Most companies, there's a difference whether you look at the email address or otherwise, that you could see, okay, this company is hiring from X. Because I come from large corporations, I come from big tech. And if I'm saying this, there's a linear path. And even with those large companies, they may be hiring contractors, but those contractors are working for the actual company. So there really isn't a differentiation between them and the outside. But if a company hires an agency, in that case, it's a completely different story. And in those situations, I feel weird saying this, but I somewhat agree with you. It's all about doing the research ahead of time and coming in with the best knowledge of the situation. But even then, even going back to the ADA compliance and the disability compliance, if you need those accommodations, you do need to let them know ahead of time, because that will set up the path. Because just really, really quickly, there's accommodations that are for the interview process directly, and then there's accommodations once you start. They're two very different things.
Right.
So that's where those different components come in. And if you have those accommodations for the interview process, that isn't going to guarantee that you're going to get those same ones once you start. So there needs to be that sort of understanding in order to put yourself in the best position to succeed. One small tidbit that I don't want to go overlooked, and that is the fact that while we're talking about the job search, there are external personal factors that come into play with any job, and they affect each other. So the stress of the job search is going to affect the personality, the person, and the things that are going on in the personal life are going to affect the job search. So this isn't a one size fits all. Everything overlaps.
Right. All right. So I feel like all three of you guys wanted to say something on top of that. So what do you think? Anybody? I just thought coming with outsourced HR that does not understand. Yeah, I think you're right that it could be potentially dangerous, right? And I think that was sort of my point with I don't want to crucify Dr. Ramirez's first name out of respect. So, but Dr. Ramirez just said a company with outsourced HR that does not understand DEI in an interview might be dangerous for underrepresented applicants should they be hired, right? So I think that, thank you for saying that so articulately. I think that's what I was trying to communicate, in that in different, candidates that I've seen that have come through our service, and have asked questions along the way. That's just my concern, right? Because there's a lot of small and medium private companies that, have different guidelines that they adhere to, and it's not always consistent. So I think that's important to note. So y'all, we've got 6 minutes left. And thanks to all of you guys who have joined. We really, really, really appreciate it. I know early on, Dan put in the top of the comment section that we are all hosting a vertical, it kind of is vertical, virtual boot camp next Thursday and Friday. And we've got a couple spots left. If anybody's interested, or anybody who is, send them to the link. That's my last PSA for that. But I think all of you guys have brought so many good things up, and I know there's a couple things that you want to circle back to about resiliency. So
absolutely. You know what? There was one thing too when Helen was talking, and I learned this from Keith Ferrazzi, and I thought it was just brilliant, and I will share it with you guys. When you go into a room and you are meeting somebody, instead of saying, "What do you do for a living?" ask them how they spend the majority of their time. That way they have the opening to talk about, if they're unemployed, they can talk about their family, their kids, their art, whatever it is. And you're not putting them on the spot and causing that sense of I'm in this awkward position that I don't want to share with the room, right? You're not interrupting their safety. So I just wanted to share that because I thought it was such a brilliant piece of advice which I have followed. Yeah. And then I would also love to speak to what Lisa talked about, what Helen talked about. All of you guys have kind of touched on it. And that's this, you're an alchemist. So anybody watching right now, mental health is an alchemy. We all come from our own experiences. We all have our own rule sets. We all have this experience of life. We popped out over here. Someone popped out over there. We'll have learned and developed in a very specific way. And nothing is a one size fits all. Surfing isn't a one size fits all, right? It's take the things, adapt them to your life in whatever way that looks, and move forward with it. Tweak, trajectory correct, and go. It's like anything in life. Tweak it, go. Learn from what you apply, but don't say, well, exercise isn't for me. Well, I mean, maybe jump rope works for you, or maybe walking works for you, or who knows what works for you. I don't know, rolling down hills. Like, find something that you like. Dance your butt off in the morning. I don't care.
I mean, the rolling down the hill might be fun. It's been a hot minute, but
But that's my soapbox. And then the only other thing that I wanted to circle back on, and does anyone have any comments before I circle back on it?
Bueller? Sorry, stop it.
But I just wanted to quickly circle back on celebration and the importance of celebration. It's a mental health resource, guys, and I cannot stress enough how valuable it is, because it is a way to evaluate, appreciate, and acknowledge the worth of the steps that you take to show up every day. Like, when you guys aren't celebrating the small steps, you're basically sending the message to your body that there's no value in those steps. You're saying the tenacity, the work, the effort that you put into your life, those long hours of job searching, the putting together the resume while you're suffering brain fog and burnout and you're feeding your kids, that those things aren't worth stopping and appreciating. That hours upon hours that you guys put into the day-to-day things you have to do to keep your life just on the rails sometimes, or the effort you put into to build a life you love, that those somehow merit less attention or appreciation than some sort of official occasion or societal norm. Like, celebration's more than a party, right? It's a system of recognition that our bodies and minds use to define what's important. Were you telling me to stop?
No, I I think all of you guys have given such really great, we've covered a lot of different categories. I think it's not just been theoretical. Lisa, I love that you led with an exercise. I didn't know you were going to do exactly that. And that was really great. And this finger thing is, I do this all the time. Yep. I do that all the time. I didn't know that's why I did it. But it makes total sense to me. And Helen, the examples that you gave, and what you do with the journaling, and your patients do with the journaling, I don't do it formally. Like I have random note things by my nightstand and I go back and I'm like, I wonder what that was about. That's quirky, but it's over now. And it allowed me to go back to sleep. So, and Dan, I think, bringing in, the real life experiences and being brave, I mean, I think that's like, we all are brave and we all need to be brave in our respective lives. And it's taking care of ourselves and the people that are around us and bringing different perspectives is really important. So
real quick, as we talk about workplace safety and resources, Heliana Ramirez, who's in the comments, actually has an organization that works with workplace trauma specifically with a focus on Black and the LGBTQIA plus community. So if you are somebody that's been through workplace trauma, she is an incredible person to reach out to. I just wanted to throw that out there because she does just amazing, amazing work.
Yeah. So, well, listen, we are at time. So I just want to thank all of you guys for being here and for joining and bringing your authentic selves. And it's recorded, so you can watch it again if you're so inclined, or you can forward it and share it with other people who couldn't be here. And it's Friday. Friday, how we say it in my house. But all right, so thank you all so much, and we're going to have another live next Tuesday at noon. If you guys are interested in joining, so you can watch for that post. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This was great.
Yeah, it was.
And my pleasure.
Thank you.
And call it to Valeska, who facilitates all of this.
Yay, Valeska.